My brothers and sisters always looked down on me. They never let me come to their weddings, so when it was my turn, I didn't invite them either. What happened next? Well, they didn't know what to say. I'm Claire, the youngest of 5. My siblings, Ben, Sean, Dana, and Evan, were so much older than me that I often felt like I didn't really belong. By the time I was old enough to make memories, they were already out the door, off to college, starting careers, living adult lives. I felt like the odd one out. Like some afterthought they just had to deal with. Still, I loved them. Being the youngest, you kind of idolize your older siblings. You see them as bigger than life. I used to think Ben hung the moon. He was the oldest and had that cool, older brother vibe, always seemed like he had it together. Sean was quieter, more serious, but I still looked up to him. Dana, my only sister, was the one I really wanted to be close to. I hoped she'd take me under her wing, maybe show me the ropes. And Evan, well, he was the youngest of the older bunch, so I figured he'd be the one I'd connect with the most. But even he kept me at a distance. The first time I realized just how little I meant to them was when Ben got married. I was 11. 11's that in-between age where you feel like you're old enough to be part of grown-up stuff, but folks still treat you like a kid. So when Ben and his fiancée Laura said they were having a child-free wedding, I didn't think that meant me. I mean, I wasn't some toddler throwing Cheerios or crying through the ceremony. I was his sister. I still remember sitting with my parents when they told me. I was so excited, I even asked Mom if I could borrow one of her necklaces for the big day. That's when she said it. Ben and Laura are doing an adults-only wedding, Claire. You won't be able to go. I just stared at her, trying to make sense of it. But I'm not like other kids, I said. I'll be quiet. I promise. She patted my head like I was a puppy. It's just for adults, sweetie. You'll understand when you're older. But I didn't understand. Not even a little. I cried for hours in my room. Ben was my brother. I wanted to see him get married. I wanted to be there when Laura, who I already thought of as my sister, walked down the aisle. Instead, I stayed home with a babysitter. I remember staring at the clock that day, trying to picture everything I was missing. When Ben got back from his honeymoon, I thought maybe he'd say something, tell me he was sorry I couldn't be there, maybe share a funny story from the wedding. But he didn't. He acted like I wasn't even supposed to be part of it. Like I didn't matter. 2 years later, Sean got engaged. I was 13 then, and I really believed things would be different. I was older. Quieter. Well-behaved. I didn't complain or make a scene. I made sure everyone knew I was mature. So when they said his wedding was going to be child-free too, I thought, okay, but surely this time I'll be invited. Nope. I got the same talk again. Sean and his fiancée want an adults-only wedding, Claire. It's not personal, they said. Not personal? How could it not be personal when it kept happening? I didn't cry this time. I was older and I tried to act grown up. I didn't beg. I didn't scream. I just sat there quietly while my parents gave me their excuses. My mom tried to make me feel better. You'll have your own wedding one day and it'll be wonderful. You'll see. But it didn't help. I was starting to get it. My siblings didn't really see me as part of the family, not in the same way I saw them. By the time Dana got engaged, I was 16. A full-on teenager. More than anything, I just wanted to be included. At first, Dana didn't even plan on banning kids. She wanted everyone to be there. Then the family chimed in. My aunts and uncles kept going on about how nice it is to have a wedding without kids running around and how children just make things chaotic. Eventually, Dana gave in. She made a rule, no one under 18. I was 16. It felt like getting slapped in the face. So I asked her nicely if I could be the exception. I'm your sister. I'll be quiet, I promise. She looked at me all serious and said, if I make an exception for you, what about the other kids? It wouldn't be fair. Fair? Are you kidding? I snapped. I yelled, it's not fair that I haven't been allowed to go to any of your weddings. I'm not just some random kid, I'm your sister. That's when my parents stepped in. They grounded me for 5 months. 5 whole months. I spent most of it locked in my room, stewing in anger and hurt. By the time Evan got engaged, I was 18. And you know what? I didn't even ask. I already knew. Sure enough, the invite never came. Another child-free wedding. At that point I was numb. I didn't cry. I didn't argue. I didn't ask why. I just accepted it. But the part that really stung? My cousin Haley, who had just turned 18, got an invitation. I heard about it through the family grapevine. Apparently, 18 was the magic number. The irony wasn't lost on me. Haley was only a few months older than me, but she made the cut. I didn't. When my parents asked why I hadn't made a big deal congratulating Evan, I just shrugged. I sent him a quick text, "Congrats. Hope it's a good day." Then I went to my room like always. By then I'd started checking out emotionally. I realized I just didn't matter to them, not really. I wasn't their little sister. I was just some kid they barely thought about. And it hurt. It hurt a lot. Years went by after Evan's wedding. I stopped trying to wedge myself into their lives. I was just tired. Tired of being left out. Tired of being the forgotten kid sister nobody cared about unless it was convenient. By the time I met Noah, my fiancé, I had one foot out of the family altogether. I didn't expect much from anyone anymore. Noah was the first person who actually listened when I told him about all this. I remember sitting on his couch, telling him how I wasn't invited to a single one of my siblings' weddings. He looked stunned. "Wait, they didn't invite you? Not even when you were like 15? "Nope," I said, trying to pretend it didn't still hurt. He shook his head. "What the hell? You're their sister." He just sat there, speechless for a second. Then he said, "That's seriously messed up." And I think that's when it hit me, it was messed up. I'd spent so many years convincing myself it was normal. Child-free weddings might sound fair on paper. I mean, it's not like they were trying to leave me out, right? Wrong. For times they made the same choice to leave me behind. Not one of them ever said, "Hey, maybe Claire should be there." That's not normal. That's not okay. So when Noah and I got engaged a few years later, I made one thing crystal clear. My wedding was going to be different. I wanted it filled with people who actually cared about me. People who were excited to be there, not just showing up out of obligation. That's when I made up my mind. I wasn't inviting my siblings. There wasn't some dramatic moment. I didn't send out some rage-filled email or drop a bomb in the family group chat. I just left their names off the guest list. Quiet. Simple. I knew it'd blow up eventually, but I figured I'd deal with it when the time came. The first crack showed about 2 months before the wedding. My mom called out of the blue one afternoon, way too cheerful for no reason. I should have known something was coming. "So, Claire," she said in that sugary voice she always used when she was about to ask for something, "how's the wedding planning going?" "Good," I said, careful with my tone. "Pretty much everything's set." "That's great," she replied, and then she paused like she was trying to sound casual. "Your brothers and sister haven't gotten their invitations yet. Did you send them already?" My heart started racing. I didn't want to have this conversation yet. "Yeah, I sent them," I said, trying to keep it cool. She didn't miss a beat. "Well, they didn't get one. Maybe it got lost in the mail." I let out a sigh. "Mom, I didn't invite them." Silence. For a second it was just dead air. Then the yelling started. "What? Claire, how could you not invite your own family? Your siblings? What is wrong with you?" I gripped the phone a little tighter, trying to stay calm. "They didn't invite me to their weddings, Mom. Not one of them. So I'm doing the same. It's fair." She sounded like I'd committed some awful crime. "That was different. You were just a kid. They didn't mean to hurt you." I let out a bitter laugh. "Yeah. Well, it hurt anyway. And I'm done pretending it didn't." That's when the guilt trip began. Classic mom. "You're being spiteful. Family is family, Claire. You can't just shut them out like this. What will people think?" There it was, her favorite phrase. "What will people think?" I cut her off. "I don't care what people think, Mom. This is my wedding. I'm only inviting people who actually care about me. They didn't care enough to include me when it mattered, so why should I include them now?" She hung up on me. Honestly, I expected it. That night, the family group chat exploded. Dana started it, all sweet and fake. "Hey, Em, did something happen with the mail? We haven't gotten our invites yet." Then Sean chimed in, blunt as ever, "What's going on? Why aren't we invited?" I stared at my phone for a while, unsure what to say. Part of me wanted to unload everything, let them know exactly how much they'd hurt me over the years. But deep down, I knew it wouldn't matter. They never listened. They never got it. So I didn't reply. I left the chat on read. Later at dinner, Noah noticed I was quiet. "Everything okay?" I showed him the messages. He read them, then looked at me and shook his head. "You don't owe them anything, Em. They made their choices." "Yeah, but," I hesitated. "They're going to make me out to be the bad guy." "I know it." "Let them," he said firmly. "You know the truth. That's all that matters." The next day, my parents showed up at my place, no warning. I didn't even have to ask why they were there. My mom stormed in the second the door opened. What are you thinking, Claire? Not inviting your own siblings? What kind of person does that? I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm, even though my patience was wearing thin. I already told you, Mom. They didn't think I was important enough to be at their weddings. So I'm not including them in mine. Then my dad finally said something. His voice was stern, like he thought he was laying down the law. You're being childish, Claire. You're holding on to stuff that happened a long time ago. And that's when I snapped. I was a child, Dad. I begged to be at their weddings, and every single one of them shut me out. Don't talk to me about being childish when I was the one left crying at home 4 times. That shut them up. My mom looked like she might cry, but I didn't let her manipulate me this time. You can keep defending them if you want, I said, but I'm not changing my mind. If they cared about me, they'd have shown it back then. They left, angry and frustrated. Over the next few days, my siblings started sending nastier messages. Sean flat out called me selfish. Dana said I was tearing the family apart. Evan didn't even try to be nice. You're being petty, Claire. Grow up. I ignored every one of them. I didn't need to explain myself. Not anymore. One night, Noah wrapped me up in a hug while I was scrolling through the messages. I'm proud of you, he said, for standing up for yourself. And you know what? For the first time, I felt proud of me too. After all that drama, I figured things would cool off eventually. Maybe they'd rant to a few cousins, complain a little, and then let it go. But I'd underestimated how far they were willing to take this. It started small, of course it did. Dana couldn't resist a dig, so she posted one of those vague, passive-aggressive Facebook statuses. Family is forever, even when some people forget what that means. I rolled my eyes so hard I thought they might get stuck. Noah was sitting beside me scrolling too. When I showed him the post, he just shook his head. What is she, 14? Basically, I muttered, trying not to let it get to me. I told myself it didn't matter. I knew the truth. I wasn't doing anything wrong. But it still stung. It always hurts when your own sister decides to take shots at you in front of the world. And it didn't stop there. A few days later, little digs started popping up in the extended family group chat. I'd muted it ages ago, but Noah still had his notifications on. One afternoon, he glanced at his phone and said, You might want to see this. Sure enough, the chat was blowing up. Dana, it's just so sad when family chooses grudges over love. Sean, I don't understand. I thought we were better than this. And then Ben, classic eldest child Ben, had to chime in with his holier-than-thou wisdom. I never realized how bitter you were, Claire. It's really sad. You're ruining relationships over stuff that happened years ago. I stared at the screen, my blood boiling. They didn't get it. They still didn't get it. They acted like I was throwing a tantrum over nothing. Like I hadn't spent my whole life being shut out. I wanted to respond. I wanted to write out everything they'd ever done and force them to face how hypocritical they were being. But I knew better than to argue with them. That would have just handed them more fuel for the fire. They'd twist my words around, make me out to be dramatic or unstable, anything to dodge responsibility. So instead, I did the one thing none of them saw coming. I left the group chat. Later that night, Mom called. I could tell she'd already heard what happened because the second I picked up, she was shouting, Claire, what is wrong with you? Hi, Mom, I said, flat and tired. Don't start with that attitude, she snapped. Do you even realize what you've done? Your siblings are heartbroken. You're tearing this family apart. Heartbroken. I let out a sharp laugh. They ignored me my entire childhood, but now they're heartbroken? Come on. You're being spiteful, she said. You've always been like this, holding on to things and making it all about you. And that's when I hit my limit. I'm the one holding a grudge? Mom, I was 10 when Ben got married. 11. I cried because I wanted to be there, and all of you told me I wasn't important enough. And it didn't stop with Ben. It kept happening. Over and over. I begged to be at Dana's wedding. And she told me no because it wouldn't be fair. That was a long time ago, she said, brushing it off. Yeah. Well, I'm still dealing with how it made me feel. You all decided back then that I didn't matter. So why should any of you get front row seats in my life now? She didn't have a real answer. Instead, she tried to flip the script. This isn't about weddings, Claire. This is about you pushing people away. You're bitter. Noah's probably feeding into it, isn't he? I groaned. Stop blaming Noah. He has nothing to do with this. This is me finally understanding that I deserve better than being treated like I'm invisible. Her voice softened, trying to sound motherly again. Claire, you don't get it. In the end, family is all you have. Friends come and go. Even relationships. No, I said, calm but firm. Family is supposed to care. They're supposed to show up to support you. That's not what I've gotten from you. She started crying. Big, dramatic sobs that I knew were more about manipulation than sadness. You'll regret this one day, she sniffled. You'll see. I don't think I will, I said, and I hung up. Things only got worse after that. I blocked Dana and Sean on social media. I couldn't deal with the constant passive-aggressive posts and side comments. My mom tried to call Noah twice, probably hoping she could guilt-trip him into talking some sense into me. He didn't pick up. Then Ben sent me a long, drawn-out email. Yes, a real email, full of talk about forgiveness and family and some Bible verse about letting go of anger. I didn't reply. One night, I just let it all out while Noah and I sat on the couch. They're acting like I'm the one who started this. Like I'm causing drama for no reason. They don't see how insane it is that they ignored me for years and are now losing their minds because I finally stood up for myself. You know what it is? Noah said. They're not mad about the wedding. They're mad they can't control you anymore. That hit me like a freight train. He was right. That was it. All those years I was treated like an afterthought, someone they could push aside whenever it was convenient. And now that I was doing something for me, something they couldn't dictate, they couldn't handle it. They'll probably get over it, I said, though I wasn't really sure I believed it. Maybe, Noah said. Maybe not. But either way, that's not your problem anymore. And he was right again. That was the first time it really sank in. I didn't owe my family anything. Not my time. Not my peace. And definitely not a wedding invitation. About a week later, my dad sent a short text, full of guilt. Claire, your mom's not doing well. She's really upset about all this. Maybe you could reconsider. I stared at it for a while before typing back. Maybe she should have thought about that before ignoring me all those years. Then I hit send and blocked his number. And for the first time in years, I felt free. The weeks leading up to the wedding were a weird mix of excitement and anxiety. I was so ready to marry Noah, to finally have the day I dreamed of since I was a kid. But at the same time, the tension with my family hung around like fog that wouldn't lift. My parents stopped calling me after the last meltdown. I blocked my mom anyway. But that didn't stop other people from getting involved. Out of nowhere, my aunt called. I hadn't heard from her in years, so the second I saw her name on my screen, I knew it wasn't good. I picked up. Claire, sweetheart, she said in that syrupy, sweet, condescending voice, I just don't understand why you're making such a big deal out of this. Family is family. Here we go. It's not right to leave your siblings out of your wedding, she added. I gripped the phone a little tighter. Aunt Karen, this isn't just about the wedding. This has been building for years. I'm not changing my mind. But it's family, she said again, like that word was supposed to fix everything. I'm sure they didn't mean to hurt you back then, she went on. Can't you just be the bigger person and let it go? I closed my eyes, trying not to lose it. Being the bigger person doesn't mean letting people walk all over you. It means knowing when it's time to choose yourself. There was a long pause, then a dramatic sigh. Well, I just hope you don't regret this one day. You might miss your family and they won't be there. I didn't say anything. I just hung up. The morning of the wedding, I woke up with this odd mix of calm and tension. Not the usual, hope the cake shows up on time kind of nerves. It felt more like I was waiting for someone to crash the party. Even though they weren't invited, I couldn't shake the feeling that someone from my family would try to make an appearance. But Noah, bless him, wasn't about to let me spiral. We were getting ready in separate rooms, and when I told him what I was worried about, he just smiled and said, this day is about us. That's all that matters. And if anyone tries to mess with that, I'll walk them out myself. That made me laugh, really laugh. It was the first time in weeks I felt light again. The venue was exactly what I'd imagined, small, cozy, filled with flowers and twinkle lights strung up through the trees. There was a little gazebo where we'd say our vows. It wasn't some over-the-top, Pinterest-perfect wedding. It was real. It was full of love. And it was ours. My closest friends were there, along with a few family members who'd always been kind to me, who'd shown up when it counted. It felt right. As I stood in front of the mirror, finishing my makeup and smoothing out my dress, Tessa, my best friend and maid of honor, walked in with a big grin on her face. You look amazing, Tessa said, grinning. Thanks, I replied softly, trying to keep it together as a wave of emotions hit me. She sat down on the edge of the couch and watched me quietly for a moment. Are you okay? I paused before nodding. Yeah, I don't know. Sad, I guess. Not about today. Today's perfect. It's just, my family's not here. Her face softened and she leaned forward. Claire, it's okay to feel that. Just because you made the right choice doesn't mean it won't hurt. That hit me hard. I turned to her and I could feel the tears building in my eyes. I wanted them to care, I said. I wanted them to fight for me when I was a kid and they never did. Tessa got up and wrapped me in a hug. You don't need their approval. You've got people who love you. Focus on that. I took a deep breath and nodded. She was right. Today wasn't about them. It was about me and Noah. When the ceremony started, everything else faded. The beauty of it all just overwhelmed me. I remember standing at the end of the aisle, staring at Noah, thinking, this is it. This is what happiness feels like. As I walked toward him, this deep sense of freedom washed over me. I wasn't that forgotten little sister anymore. I wasn't the kid begging to be included. I was a bride surrounded by people who truly loved me and wanted me to be happy. Our vows were perfect. Noah promised to love me, protect me, and stand by me always. I made those same promises right back. By the time we said I do, there wasn't a dry eye in the whole place, including mine. The reception was everything I dreamed of. We laughed, we ate, we danced until our feet were sore. My friends gave toasts that were hilarious and heartfelt. Noah's parents, who had always treated me with such warmth, told me how proud they were to have me in their family. At one point, I slipped away from the crowd just to soak it all in. I stood at the edge of the garden, looking at the twinkling lights in the trees and hearing the laughter all around me, and I felt full. Full in a way I hadn't felt in years. For so long, I believed the lie my family told me, that I didn't matter, that I wasn't important enough to be included. But standing there, surrounded by love, I realized something. I do matter. I just needed to stop wasting that truth on the wrong people. Later in the night, when things were winding down, one of my cousins pulled me aside. Hey Claire. I probably shouldn't say this, but I groaned. What now? She looked guilty. Your mom and Dana apparently threw some kind of dinner tonight. Like an alternative to your wedding. I stared at her for a second, then burst out laughing. Are you serious? She nodded. I know. It's pathetic. I just thought you should know. I shook my head, still laughing. Let them have their pity party. I hope the food's good. I could tell she expected me to be hurt. But honestly, I wasn't. If anything, it just confirmed I'd made the right call. My family had spent years excluding me and then trying to justify it. And now when I finally drew a line, they couldn't handle it. At the end of the night, Noah and I had one last dance with all our friends and loved ones gathered around. As we swayed together, I whispered, I'm so glad we did this. He looked down at me and smiled. Me too, Em. This is just the beginning. And for the first time I believed it. My family wasn't there. They didn't witness the best day of my life. And that was their loss, not mine. Because as I looked around that room, surrounded by laughter and love, I realized I already had everything I ever needed. And none of it came from them. I honestly thought the drama would end after the wedding. The day had been perfect, better than I even imagined. I felt like I'd finally let go of all the old baggage. I didn't miss my family during the ceremony. Not once did I wonder what it would have been like if they were there. I had people who loved me. That was enough. But if there's one thing I've learned about my family, it's this: they hate being ignored. It's like the idea that I could be happy without them really got under their skin. So of course they had to stir the pot one more time. It started with a message from Dana about a week after the wedding. Of course it was Dana. She always had to get the last word. Saw some pics from your wedding, she wrote. Can't believe you had it in a garden. Looked casual, but I guess that's what you wanted. I just stared at the screen, stunned. She couldn't even fake being nice. It wasn't enough to leave me alone, she had to take a jab. I was tempted to fire back with something snarky. Maybe something like, sure, your wedding was fancier, but at least mine wasn't full of fake smiles and forced conversations. But I didn't. She didn't deserve a response. A few days later, I started getting messages from distant relatives I hadn't talked to in years. Apparently Dana, Ben, and Sean had gone on some sort of campaign to make me look like the villain. Aunt Karen, yes, that Aunt Karen sent me another message. Claire, I don't know what happened between you and your siblings, but they're really hurt. Dana says she tried to reach out, and you're ignoring her. Maybe it's time to let the past go. I rolled my eyes so hard I nearly saw stars. How many times did I have to explain this? How many people did they need to drag into this before they realized I wasn't budging? Noah saw my expression and sat down next to me. Another guilt trip? He asked. Yep. Aunt Karen again. Apparently they're hurt. He laughed under his breath. Hurt because they don't get to control you anymore. I smiled just a little. You're not wrong. I don't get it. They ignored me for years. I begged to be part of their lives. And now that I've set a boundary, I'm the bad guy. That's how it always works, he said gently. When you start protecting yourself, the people who hurt you are the first to play the victim. The real low point came a few days later. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon. Noah and I were having a lazy morning still in pajamas, making brunch, laughing at our awful pancakes. Then there was a knock at the door. I froze. I just knew who it was. I opened the door and there she was. My mom. Standing there with her usual dramatic energy, already full of disappointment. Claire, she said, her voice sharp and shaky. We need to talk. I sighed. Mom, now's really not a good time. She didn't care. She pushed the door open a little, trying to come inside like it was her right. Noah stepped up behind me, quietly placing a hand on my shoulder. Claire, please, she said. This has gone far enough. Your siblings are devastated. Devastated? I clenched my jaw, keeping my voice even. Is this what you think family looks like? I stepped forward. You don't get to show up here and lecture me, Mom. I invited people who actually care about me to my wedding. If my siblings didn't make the cut, that's on them. Not me. Her face dropped into that familiar look, like she just couldn't wrap her head around the fact that I was standing up to her. You don't mean that, she said, almost pleading. They love you, Claire. They're your family. No, Mom, I said firmly. Family doesn't make you feel small. Family doesn't ignore you when you're a kid and then expect to waltz back in when it suits them. I took a breath and looked her straight in the eye. I spent my whole life trying to prove I mattered to them. And they never once cared. I'm done. She blinked, stunned silent. For once, she didn't have anything to say. Noah stepped forward then, his voice calm but steady. I think it's time for you to leave. She looked at both of us, her face torn between anger and sadness. You'll regret this, Claire, she said, softer now, like she was handing down a curse. You'll miss us one day. And we won't be there. I held her gaze unshaken. No, Mom. I won't. Noah closed the door behind her. And I just stood there for a minute, taking it in. I thought I'd feel guilty. But I didn't. I felt relieved. The next day I got a text from Sean. Mom said she came to talk to you and you slammed the door in her face. Real mature, Claire. You've turned into someone I don't even recognize. I read the message out loud to Noah. He shook his head and said, block him. You don't need that. So I did. One by one, I blocked every sibling, every cousin, every relative who decided to hop on the guilt train. That day, I realized something important. I didn't owe them my time, my energy, or even an explanation. They made me feel invisible for years. And now I was finally taking control. The weeks that followed were the quietest I'd had in a long time. No more constant texts. No more backhanded comments or guilt trips. I could finally breathe. Noah and I started settling into married life, decorating our little apartment, talking about the future, just living. One night we were on the couch, watching some cheesy movie, and he turned to me. Do you regret it? Not having them at the wedding. I thought about it for a second, then shook my head. No. I thought I might. But I don't. I spent so much of my life trying to win their approval. And for what? I don't miss them. I don't miss feeling like I'm never enough. He smiled and gave my hand a gentle squeeze. Good. You deserve better. And he was right. I did. A month after the wedding, I got one last message. It came from Dana's number, but clearly sent through a different phone. I'd already blocked hers. You've destroyed this family, Claire. I hope you're happy. I stared at it for a moment. Then I deleted it. No anger. No sadness. Just done. As I was happy. For the first time in my life, I wasn't chasing anyone's approval. I wasn't begging for their scraps of love or attention. I had real people around me. People who cared. People who chose me. And that was enough. It always had been.